Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're putting the pedal to the metal with F124 on my trusty low-end PC, the one that's more potato than machine. We're testing out if this beast of a racing game can actually run on an i3 processor with no graphics card, just the integrated graphics. Spoiler alert, if you're hoping for miracles, you might want to hold your breath. But let's see how F124 holds up under some serious low-spec pressure. If you're curious whether you can be the next Lewis Hamilton without upgrading your rig, stick around. So, after receiving countless recommendations for F124, I found myself at a crossroads. Should I really try running this on my low-end PC, or am I just asking for trouble? The curiosity finally got the better of me, because, hey, who doesn't want to feel like an F1 driver, even if the car is virtual and the engine is more like a hamster running on a wheel? So I decided to give it a spin. Or should I say a lap? The first thing I did, and this should be no surprise to anyone who's watched my other low-spec game reviews, was to set the resolution to 720p. Why? Because anything higher and my PC might just explode in protest. I'm talking blue screen of death-type drama. I also dialed down all the graphics settings to low or off. I mean, I've got an i3 processor with no graphics card. My laptop is practically a potato with Wi-Fi. Let's not kid ourselves, I wasn't expecting miracles here. But brace yourselves, because what happened next was nothing short of a miracle. The game was playable. No, seriously, it was actually playable. I was hitting a steady 35 to 40 FPS, and even in those graphics-heavy moments, like when you're zipping down the straight or dealing with a tightly packed grid, it held up. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was almost like the game took pity on my sad little laptop and decided to cut me some slack. Even though everything was turned down to low, the visuals weren't half bad. I mean, sure, it's no Forza or Gran Turismo, but you can still tell you're driving a car, not just pushing a block of pixels with wheels. Now, speaking of Forza and Gran Turismo, I did try to play them first, because let's be real, who doesn't want that next-level racing experience? But Forza took one look at my specs and just laughed in my face. It wouldn't even launch. And Gran Turismo? Well, that's a console-only affair, and no one's giving us PC gamers any love there. So here I am, with F124 as my fallback. It's like settling for a sandwich when you wanted a gourmet burger. It's not exactly what you wanted, but hey, at least you won't go hungry. And if you see any stuttering or lag in the gameplay footage, don't freak out, that's just my screen recorder having a nervous breakdown, not the game itself. Honestly, aside from a couple of minor frame drops here and there, the game ran pretty smoothly. And I'm not alone in this. From what I've seen online, even people with much beefier setups have been complaining about frame drops. So I guess EA has just made it a universal feature. Everyone gets to suffer equally, no matter how much they spent on their rig. So in that sense, I guess I'm winning, right? Alright, now on to the gameplay. If you're like me, my team career mode is where the real fun's at. So that's where I've spent most of my time. Now, I can't say much about the multiplayer side of things, but in career mode, well, it's a mixed bag. I'm halfway through my second season, and if I'm being honest, if I had a time machine, I'd probably go back and tell my past self, bro, just play F1 2021 again and pretend it's F124. Why? Because, let's face it, there's not a huge difference. Beyond the grid being updated with this year's teams, it feels like a reskin of the older games. But hey, I spent the money, so I might as well get my laps in, right? One thing that's driving me up the wall is the AI. I mean, I get it. It's tough to create realistic opponents, but come on, EA, give me something. These AI drivers are robotic to the point where it feels like I'm racing against a computer simulation from the 90s. I've gone through about 30 to 50% of my races, and guess what? Not a single crash, not even a little spin out. It's like all the AI drivers have had perfect driving lessons from day one. They're all glued to the track, driving in flawless DRS trains like they've been programmed by some extraterrestrial force that doesn't understand human error. Where's the excitement? I want to see crashes. I want to see mistakes. I want to feel like I'm racing against humans, not some overly cautious autopilot system. Watching ants scramble around a piece of sugar would probably be more thrilling than one of these race replays. Heck, maybe I should stream that next. And let me tell you about my race engineer. You know the guy that's supposed to keep you informed and help you strategize during the race? Yeah, well, mine seems to have a vocabulary of about 2 sentences. Every race, without fail, I'll hear him say, "Now that you're behind the car in front of you, you'll start to notice some understeer." I'm not kidding. He says this randomly, even when I'm 10 seconds behind the next car. Am I supposed to understeer through thin air? It's like he's just talking to fill the silence. If I have to hear that line one more time, I'm seriously going to climb out of my car mid-race, storm into the pit lane, and throw his headset into the nearest trash can. Please, for the love of all things holy, give me the option to mute him, or at least give him some new lines. I'd take "you're doing great," or even "hey, your pizza's ready." At this point, just something to break the monotony. And don't even get me started on the race announcer. In previous games, the guy actually provided interesting tidbits before each race, little nuggets about strategy, team performance, and the track itself. Now, he just says the same 2 or 3 things over and over again. It's like listening to a broken record. Welcome to this iconic track. Yeah, I've heard it all before, mate. I've reached the point where I just skip the intro altogether because it's putting me to sleep faster than a meditation app. And then there's the wet races. Oh boy, where do I even begin? I normally play on a difficulty setting around 65 to 70, which feels pretty balanced for me in dry conditions. But when the rain starts pouring, it's like the AI turns into Michael Schumacher while I'm stuck driving a shopping cart with bald tires. The AI just zooms past me on the straights, takes corners like they're glued to the track, and I'm there, slipping and sliding like I'm driving on soap. Honestly, it's brutal. I'd love to blame the game, but maybe I'm just a terrible wet weather driver. Either way, the rain races are a nightmare for me. It's like the game is punishing me for existing. All that said, despite these gripes, I'm still having fun with F124. But let's be real here. If EA doesn't fix some of these issues, I'm probably not going to stick with it for too long. The second season might be the end of the road for me. Maybe F125 will bring the improvements we're all hoping for. Or maybe I'll just go back to F1 2021 and live in blissful ignorance. At least there, the AI pretends to be human. So, am I enjoying F124? Yeah, I'd say I am. It's been fun, and for all the frustrations, there's still something about racing down a track at high speeds that makes you forget your computer is one bad frame drop away from turning into a paperweight. But will I be playing past my second season? Probably not. Unless EA decides to pull off a miracle and patch some of these glaring issues, I'll likely find myself dusting off F1 2021 and pretending it's the latest release. Because, let's be real, beyond the updated teams, there's not a lot of new here. Don't get me wrong, I do think the game has its fun moments. But man, EA's lack of attention to detail with the F1 series is starting to become more obvious than ever. I mean, we're still dealing with frame rate drops when hitting curbs. It's 2024, and somehow, the technology to drive over a curb without sending my frames into the abyss is still beyond reach. And it's not just my low-end PC, mind you. No, even folks with beefy setups are complaining about this. It's like the game is allergic to curbs. Someone at EAHQ probably decided that driving straight was good enough and left it at that. And the handling, oh boy, don't even get me started on the handling. If you've heard people online complaining about it, trust me, they're not exaggerating. It feels like EA decided to give us all the steering precision of a shopping cart with one wonky wheel. Sometimes I'm oversteering like my car's on ice, and other times I'm understeering like my tires are made of marshmallows. It's a wild ride, just not the kind you want from a game that's supposed to be all about precision driving. The UI? Oh man, where do I begin? You ever try navigating a maze while wearing a blindfold? That's what the UI feels like. It's clunky, confusing, and fan zones, while a cool idea just feel unnecessarily complicated. It's like they wanted to give us more features, but forgot to make them user-friendly. I shouldn't need a tutorial to figure out where to click, but here we are. Even simple things like race options feel buried under layers of menus. It's almost like EA was more interested in throwing extra features at us rather than making sure they worked well. And don't even get me started on the sound design. The engine sounds? They're more F1 2014 than F1 2024. I was expecting a nice roar from these turbo-hybrid beasts, but what I got sounds more like a glorified lawnmower. I get it. Sound design isn't the first thing you think of when you fire up a racing game, but it's hard to ignore when your car sounds like it's going through a midlife crisis. At times, I almost wondered if my headphones were broken, but nope, that's just how the game is. To be honest, all the online hate for this game seems well-founded. The more I play, the more I find myself nodding along with every criticism I've read. It's like the game had all the potential to be something great, but EA got lazy and figured we wouldn't notice. Spoiler alert, we noticed. EA, if by some miracle you're listening, here's a thought. Maybe give the rights back to Codemasters. At least they seem to care about what the fans wanted. Because right now, F1 24 feels more like a half-hearted effort than a true sequel. And honestly, I don't see myself buying another F1 game unless something seriously changes. Sure, F1 24 is decent if you're in my shoes and stuck with a low-end PC. It's playable, and I'll give it that. But let's be real, it's no Forza or Gran Turismo. If you're expecting a masterpiece, you'll be left disappointed. But if all you need is a decent racing fix without upgrading your rig, well, it'll do.